Alright, let's dive into Blue Protocol Star Resonance. So, you know how every class in the game has its own vibe, right? Some feel super strong right off the bat, while others really shine later on when you've got your gear and skills leveled up. But here's the thing, among all the options for DPS, tank, and support, some classes just pull ahead. They're faster, hit harder, or scale way better as the game progresses. And honestly, knowing which ones give you that edge can totally change how you experience the game. In this video, I'm going to break down my personal tier list for all the main roles. I'll tell you which DPS classes are pure damage machines, which tanks can take a hit like a boss, and which supports will make your team unstoppable. We'll chat about why some classes feel a little easier to power up and why others are more of a late game gem. So stick around if you want to know which classes are worth your time and which ones might need a bit more love before they truly shine. I'm quickly moving on to the video and I'm ranking classes in Blue Protocol Star Resonance. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of tier list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching.
My friends, only 0.1% of viewers subscribe. If you like this type of content, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you in advance for your support.
The classes in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Thorn Lash. You know that awkward middle child vibe? That's basically Thorn Lash and Verdant Oracle in the class world. Thorn Lash, for example, tries to juggle being both a damage dealer and a healer at the same time. You cycle marks to deal damage, which then triggers heals, making you this off damage, off healer hybrid. Sounds cool on paper, right? But here's the kicker. Compared to Dissonance, which cranks out more damage and therefore heals better, Thorn Lash just kind of flounders in its identity crisis. It's like it wants to be a Swiss Army knife, but ends up more like a butter knife. You can use it, but it won't exactly impress anyone. That said, don't write Thorn Lash off completely. If you gear it right late game, its damage can actually hit decently hard, and being a range class does give you some sweet mobility to dodge boss mechanics more easily. Verdant Oracle, on the other hand, suffers from the same trying to do everything syndrome. Both classes are caught in this weird spot where they aren't terrible, but they aren't particularly outstanding either. My advice? If you're hunting for a hybrid healer and damage dealer with access to strong buffs, Dissonance still beats them hands down. But if dodging from afar and having a ranged edge sounds fun, Thorn Lash can still be a quirky little pick for you.
The classes in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Falconry style, Stonewall, and Aerial style Skyward Spec. Let's talk about some classes that sit comfortably in B tier, the solid but not spectacular zone. First up, Falconry style for Marksman. Imagine having a pet falcon that absolutely wrecks groups of enemies for you. AoE damage heaven, right? But here's the thing, when it comes to boss fights, Falconry struggles. You're way too reliant on critical hits, and if your crit isn't maxed, your damage takes a serious hit. On the plus side, clearing PvE groups is a breeze, and your utility and battlefield control are nothing to sneeze at. Pairing with a Heavy Guardian is basically a power move since they can group enemies perfectly for your Falcon to tear through. Just remember, raw single-target boss damage, suboptimal. Crit, max it. Speaking of Heavy Guardians, let's talk Stonewall. Now, I don't hate Stonewall. It's just that its tank rotations feel more like occasional shields than continuous defense. It deals better solo damage than block, so if you're venturing alone, it's solid. But ultra late game boss fights, block will hold the fort way better. That said, Stonewall's steady HP drop from counters and damage reduction makes life easier for your healers, and your AoE buddies will love you because you can group enemies efficiently. So, not bad, just not the king of tanking. Next up is Aerial style, aka Skyward Spec for Wind Knight. Full disclosure, I have a love-hate relationship with this one. Sometimes it bugs out, terrain decides to betray you, and suddenly your aerial maneuvers feel clunky. But when it works, oh boy. Dodging boss telegraphs, weaving through mechanics without breaking attack rotations, it's gorgeous. Burst AoE, check respectable single target damage, check stack it with dissonance buffs, and you're looking at serious mid to late game potential. The key with Skyward is mobility. Camera height, field of view, all that jazz, get it right, and your aerial aim is next level. When paired with buffs and timing, this spec can feel like flying through the battlefield with a cheat code. But yeah, the glitches can make it a roller coaster, so patience is a virtue here. Back to falconry for a second. The crit reliance isn't just a minor annoyance, it directly affects your pet and your other abilities. Missed crits equals missed heals equals sad marksman. But when you do get that perfect gear and max crit synergy, clearing hordes feels cinematic, almost like you're starring in your own action movie. Finally, remember that B tier isn't bad, it's bring it if it fits your style. Stonewall can solo well, falconry dominates PvE groups, and Skyward has insane mobility potential once the kinks are ironed out. So, pick your poison, play smart, and remember, sometimes the classes you have fun with aren't the ones at the top of the charts, and that's okay. The classes in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Bulwark style recovery spec, Concerto style, Overdrive style Vanguard spec, Iaido style, and Ray style. Alright, now we're stepping into the A tier classes, the ones that feel just right without breaking the scale. First up, Bulwark style with the recovery spec for Shield Knight. This one is basically a self-sufficient tank dream. You've got even more healing than the classic shield/recovery setup, so your rotation of damage reduction, heal ring, and taunt keeps you alive for days. The only reason it's not S tier? I personally value raw damage a bit more for endgame bosses. Just be aware, your HP will always be a roller coaster, dropping and rising like a heartbeat monitor, unlike the more stable shield spec or heavy guardian. And melee range makes dodging those massive boss attacks trickier. Next, Concerto style with Beat Performer. This spec is all about team buffs. While its heals might be lower than a maxed out Dissonance with good gear, Concerto shines when it comes to powering up your squad. Dragon raids and global servers will probably be where this class truly shows off thanks to the massive team buffs. Damage-wise, it's solid but not mind-blowing, and its range advantage makes dodging boss telegraphs a bit easier than melee-heavy Dissonance. Perfect if you love feeling like the conductor of chaos while keeping your team pumped. Overdrive style for Vanguard spec Wind Knight is next, and let me tell you, this one's not for the faint-hearted. It deals more damage than Aerial or Skyward, but only if you master its combo rotations and keep your combo uptime high. Positioning is everything, because interrupt a combo with bad timing or boss mechanics, and your DPS plummets. Some people say Skyward is better, but those are casuals who haven't spent hours seeing Vanguard's chains explode into insane sustained damage. Yes, it's harder to play, but the payoff is huge. Now let's swing over to Iaido style with Stormblade. This is your reliable melee DPS pick. Iaido is for burst, Moonblade for sustained damage, and with Thunder Sigils plus Overdrive, you're hitting some seriously high burst numbers, especially when you combine them with Dissonance buffs. Moonblade Scythe has gotten a buff for more sustained combos, making it feel a bit like Vanguard's melee style. Use your iframes smartly to dodge boss attacks, and you're basically top-tier melee DPS. Weakness? Not much in AoE, so teamfights might feel a bit limiting. Ray style for Frost Mage is a stationary powerhouse. Early to mid-game, this class absolutely shines because it can pump insane DPS while handling boss mechanics without breaking its rotation. But for endgame bosses, standing still can be risky. Without high gear scores, you'll get bursted down fast. That's why I put it in A rather than S. Compare it to Icicle. It's more mobile and naturally dodges while keeping damage uptime. Still, if you can manage the burst windows, Ray can easily dish out some of the highest DPS numbers in the game. Back to Bulwark/recovery, don't underestimate that judgment healing. With a healer backing you, it's near impossible to die. It's all about trading some max HP and shield stability for insane self-sustain. And sure, dodging melee bosses is tricky, but feeling that unkillable tank power in the middle of a chaotic raid, there's nothing like it. Concerto also deserves a second shout-out. Its sustained DPS isn't going to break records, but being able to buff the whole team, dodge attacks from range, and still contribute respectable damage is a sweet combo. Think of it as a supportive DPS who actually feels impactful. No one's ignoring you in raids. Vanguard's learning curve is steep, but it's also extremely satisfying. Nail your combos, position perfectly, and suddenly those fights that seemed impossible become manageable. It's like the class is testing your skill ceiling and rewarding you handsomely when you climb it. And yes, it's more complicated than Skyward, but that's what makes mastering it so fun. Stormblade/Iaido is basically your precision DPS pick. Timing, positioning, and iframes are key. Hit your sigils and overdrive just right, and you're doing insane burst damage without relying on messy AoE. This is the class for those who like being in control and making every hit count. And finally, Ray/Frost Mage. Stationary but deadly, it's high risk, high reward, nail your positioning and timing, and you'll feel like an unstoppable frost beam of destruction. Miss a timing window or get caught off guard. That's where it reminds you why mobility matters. Overall, a solid A-tier spec with insane potential for skilled players who can dance with bosses without moving an inch. The classes in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Best Master Style, Dissonance Style, Radiant Guard Style, Shield Spec, Frost Lance Style, Block Style, and Healing Style. Alright, buckle up, because we're entering S-tier territory, the classes that just make you feel like a superhero. First up, Best Master Style for Marksman. This class fully exploits the martial/ranged divide. You can chill safely in the backlines, autoplay rotations, and still output some of the highest DPS in the game. Boss fights? No problem. Your wolf and single target rotations crush them across early, mid, and early late game. The catch? You need a lot of critical hit to maximize both your DPS and pet synergy. But unlike Falconry's AoE, you're not punished too harshly for missing crits. Downsides? Limited AoE for groups, and melee DPS classes eventually scale better in the ultra-late game. Next up is Dissonance Style with Beat Performer. If you love support with a bite, this is your jam. Your healing scales with damage, you deal solid AoE and single target damage, and you also bring a slew of attack buffs to pump up your team. Pairing with DPS-oriented tanks like Bulwark maximizes boss damage, and if you master offensive buffs on team burst rotations, you're basically unstoppable. High skill, high reward, but melee positioning is key, because anti-melee mechanics from bosses will test you. Radiant Guard Style, or Shield Spec for Shield Knight, is next. I personally favor it because it deals more damage and synergizes beautifully with dissonance buffs. Endgame Shield Knights get crazy uptime on Radiant Shield and Holy Circle, so you're dishing out shielding, damage reduction, and DPS all at once. Your shields scale with HP, and thanks to stacking Lightforged, you're rocking some of the best max HP in the game. Sure, your HP is spiky compared to Heavy Guardian, but in endgame tanks balance out. You're basically an off-heal and defense god. Just make sure you've got something like Tempest Ogre Imagine to group enemies since your kit lacks that. Frost Lance Style for Frost Mage is a powerhouse for both AoE and single target damage. You sacrifice a little damage for crowd control, like slows, but your flexible damage rotations make up for it. Build up Mystic Ice with Crystal Veil and Meteor Storm, then spam empowered ice spears or blizzards with him. Icicle Spec edges out for mobility, but Frost Lance shines if you can position correctly and nail your rotations. Block Style for Heavy Guardian tanks is a late-game staple. While DPS may be lower than other tanks, your sustain and damage reduction uptime are unmatched before ultra-late game. Your healers will love you because HP drops steadily thanks to Block's consistent mitigation. You also bring excellent AoE utility for grouping enemies, making life easier for your team. Overall, less DPS, but superior tanking reliability. Now let's talk healing style with Verdant Oracle. If your group doesn't have a healer, you're doomed in Chaotic Realm and later Dragon Raids, so Verdant Oracle healing is a must. Better than Dissonance in terms of late-game healing power, Lifebinder Spec is basically the top healer in the game. You focus on keeping tanks and DPS alive, alternating between AoE fields and single-target burst heals. Precast Nature Ward for boss mechanics, maintain Life Bloom Pulse, and you're golden. Back to Best Master. This class is super beginner-friendly in one sense because you can chill in the back, but mastering pet synergy and crit rotations makes you feel like a pro. Your single-target boss DPS is insane, making fights almost effortless once you've got gear and rotations down. Dissonance again deserves a highlight. The combination of healing and buffs makes your team feel unstoppable. You're not just supporting, you're actively increasing every DPS's output. Timing and coordination are everything here. Miss your rotation and it feels bad, but nail it and you're the MVP of the raid. Radiant Guard is basically a defensive powerhouse that doesn't just survive, it thrives. Shields, damage reduction, DPS, synergy with dissonance buffs, stacking HP, and flexibility in team fights make it one of the most reliable endgame classes. Spiky HP? Sure, but that's just part of the thrill. Frost Lance's niche is dealing huge damage while controlling the battlefield. If you can handle standing still during bursts, you'll obliterate bosses and groups alike. And the flexibility in rotations keeps you feeling like a tactician, not just a button masher. Block is your team's reliable backbone. Solid sustain, steady HP, AoE control. It's not flashy, but your team notices when you tank everything perfectly. Heavy Guardian with Block feels like you're the glue holding the raid together. Finally, Verdant Oracle Healing brings ultimate stability. You might not deal DPS like Dissonance, but your healing uptime, AoE coverage, and single target bursts make you indispensable. Keep your team alive, manage boss mechanics, and you're basically the angel every raid wants in their corner. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.